Hey everyone, Angela Kaufman here. Thanks for joining me. I'm here with my buddy Spango, who's snoozing, so he might make some noise. He might weigh in on the video, and I'm really excited to share some news about my upcoming novel. This is my first novel. It's a book called Quiet Man. Now, if you've read some of my other work, such as my book Queen Up, or books that I've co-authored like Wicca, What's the Real Deal, or the Esoteric Dream Book, you're used to seeing me write in a spirituality self-help genre. Well, Quiet Man is completely different. I'm really excited to have delved into completely new territory. This is a novel, so it's all fiction, and it's an exploration of themes like worker exploitation, class warfare, the downsides of our capitalistic, consumeristic culture here in America. So, how did I get from spirituality, self-help to this fiction about some of the really harsh realities in our society? Well, the two worlds were never that far apart for me. So, as much as I've always had an interest in spirituality and the esoteric and the occult, I've also been an activist in various forms since I was a child. When I was in grade school, my dad, who was then and still is very active in a lot of community organizations, especially union workers' rights organizations, I used to go with him to rallies and protests. And, when I was in grade school, I was reading, books like Labor's Untold Stories and these like, the other side of American history that were not taught in class. And, when I was in like sixth grade, I found out the truth about Columbus Day and brought pamphlets that I had been given at a parade by Native rights groups, and brought them into school and was trying to tell people, look, Columbus really isn't that good guy that we think he is. So these issues around human rights, environmental rights, exploitation of workers. I mean, when I was a kid, again, found out that a lot of things that my peers and I were buying, or our families were buying, were made in sweatshops. So I was like that kid that was going to school like, hey, kids our age are making this stuff, and that's really bad. We shouldn't be supporting them. So these dual paths have always been a part of my life. And the bridge from nonfiction to fiction kind of happened synchronistically as well. So back in 2016, I had just finished a really good book that I highly recommend. It's a nonfiction book called Slaughterhouse by Gail Eisnitz. I highly recommend it. And even at the time I had been vegan for about a year and a half. And so I knew a lot about the exploitation of animals in, the industrial farming industry, CAFOs, and the slaughter industry. I knew a lot about that already, but the things that were in this book, Slaughter, were like so above and beyond what I already knew of, and just so eye-opening. And I remember finishing the book and closing it and thinking like, oh my gosh, how do we make sure the word gets out? Oh, the truth is the word already is out. There are plenty of books just like that. But as I was thinking about it, I realized, not everyone is going to go to a bookstore and say, I really wonder what goes on in a slaughterhouse. Let me get a book on that. A lot of us we want to be entertained. We want to grab a book and escape into it. So I started wondering, like, how can I write a fictional story that is seeded with these very harsh realities, but that is still appealing because it's a story that entertains and lets us do what we want to do when we read a novel, which is to some extent escape. We don't really read novels to learn things, although learning things is often, a side impact of that. So, fast forward a couple of months, I had scheduled 5 days away at a writer's retreat called Women at Woodstock Writers. It was their first year doing this retreat, and I was so excited. And our first evening there, we go around the table, and everybody says their name and what their goal is for the 5 days. So I said, I've written nonfiction, but I've got this idea, and I have a page written, and I want to know how to turn a page into a whole book. And sure enough, the retreat delivered. Very grateful to everybody there, especially to Linda Lowen, who has since gone on to offer a number of writers, groups, and classes. Check out her website, lindalowen.com or alwayswantedtowrite.com. So basically, at the end of this 5-day retreat, I had like 55,000 words. I had a fleshed out story. I knew who the characters were. I knew what was going to go on. I knew how it was going to end. It's been revised a number of times since then. And there have been some dramatic revisions since then, but I came home with a skeleton and a good number of organs about what this story was going to be, having gone in with like an idea and a page. So to me, that was like, oh my gosh, maybe I can actually do this. And I had, sought out representation, agents, publishers, and all of that. However, this past year, having seen what's happening with COVID and the sudden interest in what's happening to workers in slaughterhouses, I thought, you know what, I want to get this out there. Even if I self-publish, I want to get it out there because there is this renewed awareness, there is this renewed consciousness about class inequity and about how we exploit the working class, and not just the working class, but what some people call the underclass, the part of our society that we constantly consume what they create, but we never give them a second thought. And even now with the pandemic, we give them some thought, but nowhere on the scale that we need to. And so Quiet Man started out as an idea of how to show some of the harsh realities of animal abuse and exploitation, and really grew into a novel about how capitalism traumatizes all of us, because there's characters all through the different levels, the different stratospheres. Even in the book, you'll see like even some of the characters that are pretty well to do, they can't escape the trauma of what our consumerist, predatory capitalist society has created. And so it turned into a book that examines not only classism, but racism, sexism, toxic masculinity, worker exploitation on many levels. It just kind of took on this life of its own. And in some ways very similar. It wasn't until after I had already written the bulk of it that I finally read Upton Sinclair's The Jungle. Some of us read that back in school. For whatever reason, in my class, we didn't. But I find that even folks who did read it, when I mention it as a reference, they're usually like, oh yeah, I kind of read that a long time ago, and I don't remember what it's about. So it takes aim in the same way that Upton Sinclair took, I think his quote is, I tried to take aim at the heart of the American people, and instead I hit them in the stomach. It was written in, I believe, 1906. And so I didn't even read it until after I had finished the bulk of Quiet Man. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, wow, it's a lot of the exact same issues. And they, they haven't changed much. Things haven't changed much. Or the more things change, the more they remain the same. So every bit as relevant. So I don't have an exact launch date yet. I will say it's coming soon. I'm working with a fantastic graphic artist on just finalizing the details for the cover. So that should be put together soon, and then it will probably, I'm ballparking within the month of December, there's going to be an exact launch date. And if you're interested, you can certainly, I'm going to keep you posted here on YouTube. You can follow me on Facebook. I'm leaving the link in the description below so that you can join my email list if you'd like to, and I'll certainly be putting announcements about this and other future books that I'll be self-publishing, because now that I'm kind of getting the hang of it, there are other ideas in the works in various stages of completion. So more to come, both fiction and nonfiction. So I'm really excited about Quiet Man. It was a runner-up for the Siskiyou 2020 Prize for Environmental Literature. That to me is a huge honor. The judge is a woman named Carol J. Adams, who wrote a very well-known book called The Sexual Politics of Meat. Also, follow her, check her stuff out. I'm also going to post some continued videos with, what do you call it here? Uh, teasers, that's the word. Teasers, virtual readings. I'll share some of the reviews and things like that. I will be keeping you posted. And go ahead and sign on to, or rather sign up for the email list for more information and upcoming giveaways and discounts and fun things like that. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.